everyone, to this week's episode of Be Freaking Awesome. I am one of your hosts, Sammy Kinnison, here with Angela Belford, and today we are going to be interviewing and talking with Mallory Files, the founder and creator of Ozark Charcuterie and Ozark Charcuterie Wine Bar in Fayetteville.
When I invited Mallory to come on the podcast, I had an image of what we were in for, and because we went to her opening and there was all this pink and glitter and fun and frilly, and I should have known that it always gets a little bit deeper.
So we, in talking about this conversation afterwards, sort of figured it's a little bit like a charcuterie board, to be honest. It's got a mix of everything. It's got some sweet things, it's got some fruit, some little pieces of chocolate, and then it's also got some heavier, more savory things. So just wanted to give the heads up of a couple of trigger warnings: loss of a parent, loss of a sibling, and violent crime. So please be mindful and sensitive as you listen on. But this conversation is also so good and so rich. And we're really excited to get to share it with you all and to get to share some of Mallory's story.
Absolutely. I think you will really appreciate it. And I just love that we have a platform that it's okay to be fully whole humans, bring all the grief, all the joy, all the playfulness, and all the hard that is life. That's real. Mm-hmm. So thanks for joining us, everyone.
Thanks for joining, and we hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. Angela, I actually would love to throw it to you to tell me a little bit more about how you got connected with Mallory. And then Mallory, I want to hear from you and hear just a little bit more about who you are and share who you are with the listeners.
Oh, well, this goes all the way back to Sammy linking with people on the LinkedIn, the socials. And so she connected with Lauren Russo, who was on the podcast a few months ago. So Lauren Russo promoted the episode that she was on, and my friend Mallory Marge. One of the things that Lauren and I had in common is we were both in Kiss Pig. So Mallory Marge was our Kiss Pig coordinator at that time. And so she reached out to me and said, "Oh my gosh, I loved your podcast. And you have got to meet my friend Mallory Files. She's opening up a new business." And so that connected me to getting a ticket to the grand opening of Mallory's new business. And Sammy and I got to go. And here we are. It is the power of the socials in Northwest Arkansas.
The very small world it is.
It's a very tiny little world. There's only like 500,000 people here. And I think I know I'll at least half of them.
So, Mallory, can you just take a moment, introduce yourself for everybody listening? Tell us a little bit more about who you are.
Yes, I'm Mallory Files. I own Ozark Charcuterie, and I just opened Ozark Charcuterie and Wine Bar in downtown Fayetteville off of East Mountain Street. We are kind of nestled in an alleyway, so I promise when you come down the alley, you're not getting murdered. It opens up and it's bright and pink and fun. But yeah, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I'm 26 and I am a U of A graduate. I have a husband, Chris, and a daughter, Lucy, and we live in Farmington, and we just are in the thick of parenthood, business ownership, marriage, and we are figuring it out day by day. So that's a little bit about me.
And how old is your daughter?
She's 2.
Okay, I also have a 2-year-old, so right there with you. Solidarity, Mom. I see you.
Yeah, it's tough. We are in negotiations like every day, I fear, and I cannot handle it.
I fear. Toddler hostage. Yeah. She's like, I'm in toddler hostage in negotiations.
And it's straight up Stockholm syndrome. Straight up Stockholm syndrome, because then you fall in love with your captor and you're like, but I love you so much, but you are the one who is holding me hostage, and they have all the power. And something about 2, it's like they realize they have power.
Oh yeah.
You're like, what? Like, I don't know. Lately, like Peter, I was just like, hey Peter, we're gonna go to bed. He goes, no. And then he just like refused and just held his ground and said no. And I was like, I'm going to pick you up now and carry you to bed. So then he starts like flailing and kicking and screaming. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, I'm now just gonna have to physically overpower you to get to bed, but also I hate this. I don't like this at all. Can't we just go back to
Be
18 months
friends.
where you did
Oh,
everything that I
literally.
said?
Yes. Oh, yes. It's the worst, but the best. It's like all the things are true at once here and this time, and it's very confusing because they're very polar opposite feelings.
We hold tight to the idea that we contain multitudes, and emotional
Yes.
complexity is a sign of emotional maturity, that I can hold both terror and delight
Yes.
at the same time, especially at my 2-year-old.
Yes. Yes, that is
So,
very valid.
Not at all what we were going to talk about. And I think we just have like, okay, podcast's over. You got some, for all those moms that are feeling alone in your 2-year-old land, we got some empathy right here. Go
I was
ahead.
going to say, this was not our parenting podcast episode, but I hope, somebody got a little encouragement and solidarity from the trenches.
Yes.
And for all of you not in 2-year-old land or who have like grown kids, can you just acknowledge and appreciate that you have forgotten these moments, that your brain blocked out traumatic memories and you don't remember these negotiations. And so every time you tell me you're gonna miss this and
Oh,
oh,
wait,
this
I don't
goes
say
by
that
so
shit.
fast,
I do not say
but there are
that.
some people who do, and I'm like, I hear you, and I'm like 2 steps away from putting my kid on the like street corner with a sign that says "free to good home." Like, I just need you to like tell me I
Okay,
get it's hard.
just
So
so we're clear, I am the person that was visiting with someone years ago, and I said, "Oh my goodness, preschool was the longest prison sentence I ever served." And they went, "Oh, no one says that." Oh my gosh, and especially because we were part of a subculture that idealized motherhood and idealized stay-at-home momness, and I'm like, I no, I just it was no, I remember my husband looking at me and going, I think daycare would be way cheaper than therapy. So let's just put those kids back in daycare. Because I was trying to save money and be home with them and work
Um,
and be an entrepreneur and all the
mm,
things. And I was just like, yeah, no, no, no,
no.
no. So it was hard. I do think it is a very weird thing that days are crazy long, and it
Mm,
it does feel, when you're on this side, in some ways it feels like a whole lifetime, preschool, and then in other ways it feels like it was just a minute ago. So anyway,
mm.
I don't have any more tolerance, like people that are like, oh, my grandchildren. I'm like, in small doses. In small doses.
Yeah.
uh yeah, so anyway, no, I think you got to honor your feelings, and I just don't think we talked about it as much as we do now. And but what I was
Right.
thinking of is actually the idea of what I talked to a lot of moms that are in that 14 to 24-year-old range, which is a different hard of holding two feelings. And I had not really connected the holding two feelings of toddlerhood to the teenage and early adult, because there's so many instances where you are so happy for them. They've graduated high school and you are so sad for yourself. And you are so happy for them to get married and you are so sad for yourself. And it is so incredibly intense, and it's different. That's what I was thinking
Mm,
about. I wasn't thinking it's short. I was just like, wow, I think that's the journey of parenthood, is that really being able to hold those two different things, so
hmm.
anyway, wow, totally not what we were gonna talk
hey,
about, except we're
but
gonna
it's the realities of
it
life and
is.
it's the realities of our
Totally.
stories. And so,
Totally.
speaking of our stories, Mallory, I'd love to hear some of your journey about opening Ozark Charcuterie and then opening Ozark Charcuterie, the wine bar, and tell
Yeah.
us a little bit more about how that worked for you and what were the steps.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's important for people to understand my humble beginnings. And I'm like kind of back into my humble beginnings opening this wine bar. So I have just put myself right back into it. But in 2016, I lost my dad to, he was a quadriplegic and he passed away just from complications of that. That is a very serious body exhausting thing to deal with. And so the fact that he lasted 12 years was like such a blessing. So I was 17 when he passed away. And then I went to college at the U of A. I came here. I knew I wanted to go to the U of A my junior year of high school.
Where are
I
you
fell in love
from?
with it here. I'm from Dallas.
Yeah. So, and those we do have international listeners. That is the University of Arkansas, just to remind everybody.
Yes.
But go ahead. Yes,
Yes.
from Texas, all
Yes.
which
From
is
the
pretty
Dallas
common.
area.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yes, it is. Us folks in Dallas called it the University of North Texas, referring to the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville. And so I went to, the U of A, and I had a great like first couple months here, and I was loving where I was staying. I loved my dorm room. I loved everything, my friend group, all the things. And I felt like I finally could get away from the trauma of losing my dad, of him passing away like right in front of my eyes. It was just a lot to deal with as a 17, 18-year-old. And then I guess he actually passed away in 2015. And then in 2016, I came to college. And in October, I went out for the first time, like to a frat house. And I told my mom and I are very close. And I told her I was going out to a party, and I told her I'd call her when I got back. And I guess I forgot to call her, but I came home early because I was feeling like something was wrong and I couldn't put my finger on it. And so I had no fun. I came home at like 10 o'clock, and I thought I texted her, like got home. She has my location. So I was like, you can see I'm home. Like, why are you calling me at like 8 o'clock in the morning when you knew that, I'm a college kid, I'm exhausted? And she calls me, she's like, Mallory, I need you to wake up. And I'm like, I'm awake. And she's like, no, you need to wake up right now. And so I sat up, and she goes, okay, I have to tell you something, and I need you to just stay put. I'm coming to get you. I was like, okay. And she shares with me that my older sister, Kaylee, had passed away. And I said, oh my, wait, my Kaylee? And she said,
Mm.
yes. And I asked her what happened. And she said, well, her husband killed her. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And so we just started. I tried to piece these together when my brain was just in fight or flight response. And I remember my roommate was in my room with me because we were in Humphreys. And I walked across the desk to her side, and I got in bed with her. And we just like sat there and just were like, what? I wasn't really crying. I wasn't crying. I just was in utter shock. And then I went home, and we had her funeral, and I was home for 2 weeks, and I came back to school. And um, I don't regret coming back to school, but I certainly didn't let myself grieve. And so kind of over the next 2 years, we spent a lot of time advocating for her, and putting her murderer behind bars. And and so that was just such, you know, it was a hard 2 years. And it was, I learned a lot about myself. I learned how to find my voice and use my voice, and that nobody is going to get in my way of like getting justice for the people that I love. And so, yeah, I learned a lot about the court system, and yeah, just a lot about myself. Um, so with the statement in mind, I didn't let myself grieve. We jump to post grad. So I had like 3 jobs in college. I am going full force. I just am trying to keep myself busy. I graduate college with a marketing degree and a minor in economics, and I get a job at a marketing firm. And I am 22 years old. I am freshly married, and I have a mental health crisis because I didn't let myself grieve. It just kind of all hit me at once, now that I'd slowed down. And I just didn't want to be here anymore. I just thought, what is the point of all this? I miss my dad and my sister too much. The grief was too much. And I got help and was able to, kind of piece all the things together, grieve properly, give myself time and space to do that. Um, and all of that, my therapist said, why don't you try something like to busy your hands with? And like, that's kind of like mind numbing in a way that where you're still moving, you're not just like rotting in bed. And so I made a charcuterie board for some friends, for some girlfriends, and they were like, oh my God, this is amazing. You should start a business. And I thought, okay, they know that I'm in the trenches right now. They're just trying to be nice to me, but let's do it. So I started an Instagram. I have that marketing background and just slowly started making content and charcuterie boards. And it was, a couple of years, 2.5 years in, and I had about a 3 or 4 thousand followers, and I was like, oh my God, this is insane. Oh my gosh, I've never had this many followers in my life. And then I posted this video of like my best catering hack that I have for charcuterie, and it had like 15 million views, and I just gained an insane amount of followers like overnight, essentially, like within like a month. And I went from like 3,500 followers to over 50,000 followers now on just on Instagram, and then an additional 50,000 followers on Facebook. And so it just really blew up. And I think the reason that all kind of like came together was because the way that I chose to show up on social media, and just I knew that it would work. It would just be just one video. I just needed one video to do well, and I was posting every day. I then just wanted to show up authentically. I wanted to show my face. People buy from people, not brands, and I knew that in my core. And so I started just showing up the way that I really was. And I think people really resonated with that. So it all just was this perfect storm. And from January to like May, I saved up like $30,000 just from not paying myself. I never paid myself through this business until January of this year because I quit my corporate job to do this full time. And so I just saved up $30,000, and then I said, okay, I have a total of $60,000 of my own money because like my past life savings. So I have a $60,000. I got a $65,000 line of credit at the bank, and I said, all right, let's do it. I acted as my own general contractor for the wine bar. I designed the space. I put together every piece of furniture. I painted everything. Like me and my girlfriends did everything. I had my husband help me hang some things up because it's concrete walls and a hammer drill is a beast. But beyond that, I opened my doors a couple weeks ago, and now this houses Ozark Charcuterie Catering and Ozark Charcuterie and Wine Bar in the same house or same building, and we are just moving and grooving.
Wow.
I know that's a
Angela, I
lot.
feel like
No,
if
no,
you
no. I
are
was just like,
watching if you're watching the YouTube, you'll be able to see just Angela's emotional journey wearing her feelings on her sleeve in such a beautiful way. That was
well,
just
because a lot of times we will do prep before podcasts, and we'll have a 10 to 15 minute talk where we'll like, chat about, so we have an idea of the story. And I'm sitting here kind of grateful that I'm on the journey with our listeners, right? Because I had no idea that that was the story. And so thank you for sharing your story, first of all. I just like, um, I thought we were going this one way, and I'm like, oh wow, cool, another episode on grief. We're here for it. We actually have a
Sure.
resident grief expert because when you set out to say you want to have a freaking awesome life, I told you we did a whole month on fun, but I also say that I would say maybe number one thing you need to have a freaking awesome life is you got to learn to tango with grief, and
Mm-hmm.
um, and really be able to and for me it's so symbolic because tango was the hardest dance lesson for me to learn. I actually ended up the chiropractor, and it's so metaphoric for me that like it's a very beautiful and it's a very sensual dance, and it's also hard, and it's hard to learn, and it's hard to work together with a partner, and grief is so similar for me for that. And also I think you like so many of us use the busy as our favorite coping skill, just to
Oh, for
stay in the
sure.
grind and to stay in the busy, to
Mm-hmm.
really help us. And I think it's, I used to think about it like that's how we avoided grief, or that was how we, um, whatever. And now I really accept it as just a coping skill, right? Because that
Uh-huh.
was what you needed.
Totally.
And when you're ready
Oh,
to
sure.
really go on your grief journey, like, and your body's
Mm-hmm.
ready, you will step off the crazy train. That
Yeah.
busy coping skill that we use. So anyway, thank you so much for that story. Wow.
Yeah. 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 And I think that's like all of the kind of trauma that I experienced kind of like catapulted me. I'm like an old soul at heart,
Mm,
but I think that really just catapulted me forward. And I think people are like gobsmacked when they find out I'm 26, but I'm like, no, I've lived 3 lives and I'm 26 years old. So
Mm.
I'm about 40, I feel, in my soul and in my bones. I've been aged 14 years. So, but
yeah. Well, and grief
yeah,
is a little bit like dog years, but yeah, sorry.
true.
I feel similarly on the like when people are just like shocked at your age. And I just recently hit 30 and I was like, oh my gosh, hopefully people will stop being so surprised by my age now that I'm 30. Like
Yeah.
maybe we can move on past this, but whatever, maybe we won't, and that's okay. I in your I have a question that I have theories on, and I also want to hear from you. What is it? Your space is so intentional at the wine bar, and it is so you can tell that the details have been well thought out, and there's just it's not just like haphazardly thrown together. What's your intention behind that? Like, what do you hope people feel when they walk into that space and whenever they get to sit down around the table?
Safety. I want women specifically. This space is open to everybody. Men and others are welcome, of course, but like for women specifically, I want us to feel safe when they walk through, kind of like a like a weight lifted off. Like this space was created for them by them. And yeah, just safety. I just want them to feel safe.
Mm,
I got the chance to go last night again. So just the day before we're recording this episode, and I went with two of my coworkers, and one of them recently talked about she has been reclaiming pink, and that for a long time she felt like in order to be taken seriously in the world, she needed to turn away from like girly pink things. And she was like, I just felt like if I want to be a business person, like you can't wear pink, you gotta buckle down and look like an old white man. And she has very recently been
That's funny.
healing from that and being like,
Uh-huh.
I love pink and I want to embrace pink in my life. And so when she was in the space that morning, we had had the conversation about her embracing pink as part of her healing journey. And then she got to walk in the space that is beautiful and successful and amazing and pink and very pink. And I just thought it was really, really special for her in particular. I
Yeah.
wanted to share that story with you that even a reclaiming of femininity,
yeah,
You said it right.
yeah. Okay, great.
femininity. You said it right
Suddenly
the
it was
first time. Yeah.
I'm
You
gonna
had a
say it
Nemo
again.
moment, didn't you?
I did. I was like, is that
Anemone,
right?
anemone. Yeah, you had a.
Femininity.
You could. You literally. You. Now we've messed you up. Go ahead. Femininity.
um there's this reclaiming of femininity and it is beautiful. I think that there is something just so strong and powerful about that. It's not the year of the Barbie movie anymore, but it can still be in our hearts. And just this idea of like, I don't know, be unapologetically you, embrace your journey, embrace who you are, allow the feelings, allow whatever the feelings are, whether it's the love of pink, whether it's the grief, whatever it is. It's just such a reminder just by walking into the space, be you.
Yes, yes, just be you. What a cool story. Honestly, I love that. And kind of the reasoning behind pink is A couple of reasons. One, I just have chosen to not take myself too seriously because I think then we lose the fun and we lose the relatability and we become unapproachable. And like as the company, and I don't want to become unapproachable. I want to be like, I want people to know who I am when they walk through the door. Like, oh, she cares about this space. Not like, oh, they need to know who Mallory is, but like they know there is care here, there is thoughtfulness here. And then same with my staff, I want them to, oh, we're so glad you're here. Like we just want that like comfort kind of mom's hug when you walk through. But yeah, I just have adopted this saying like don't take yourself too seriously, and that has never failed me. And especially with the pink, I just don't take myself too seriously, and it's fun.
I love the contrast of that, right? Because we talk, we start talking about parenthood and how hard it is and how glorious it is, and then grief and what a journey, beautiful journey. I do want to emphasize that a tango with grief becomes very beautiful when you really learn to embrace that space. Because it sounds really dark, but then now to say, and then from that, what you learned was don't take myself too seriously and make sure that we have fun. And
Mm-hmm.
I think those are like in our brains, our societal brains, where we just like things to be black and white and we want things to be just simple and in just
Oh,
in small little boxes and us to just put things in grids, which is also a very
no.
masculine idea to put things in grids. But my
Mm-hmm.
little brain works in Excel forms anyway. So but the nuance of that, the ebb and flow of that, of like actually one of your coping skills for grief is being too busy, and one of our coping skills for grief is joy and
Mm.
fun and
Mm-hmm.
playfulness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I it's been interesting, and I'm curious for you to see if you, once you actually did your grief dance, so to speak, or you really felt like you got some help with your grief, um did that free up like memories with your sister and that playfulness? Is that how that you recaptured that, or did you hold on to that the whole time? Maybe you didn't. I don't know, maybe you just kept it.
I think with grief, I still I'm not healed by any means. And I
No.
decided that the best way, because it is so vast and there's just a lot of layers in the nature of my sister dying and in the nature of my dad dying, that it's like an onion. And I just really focused on
Mm,
shrinking my grief ball to a manageable size versus like this massive, like big ball that anything like I was easily triggered and it's inside this box. And maybe you've heard this analogy
And the grief
before.
button.
Yes. And it just, anything was triggering and it would touch the sides and of my wall and it would be like I would be in a fight or flight response. And so I've just really focused the last couple of years to get into a manageable ball where it is still this big, but it is up on a shelf right now because I have to function. I have to um, be a mom and a business owner, and I have refused to let this grief take over my life. It is a little bit of an avoidance. However, I take the book down when I say it's okay and I open it and I rip out a page and I soak that in. I read that page and I digest it in whatever way that looks like. And I do it in a safe space because I cannot do it by myself and that is okay. So I do that with my therapist.
that's beautiful.
And then I close that book back up and I put it on the shelf along with, my grief ball is up there too. And sometimes somebody just comes through and takes it down and opens the pages for me. And I have a coping skill that I do that I can close that back up, put it back on the shelf. And it's taken a lot of time to get there. But this space is kind of like it just was like it's been in my brain like this funness and it's been like dying to get out like after all of this like
Mm,
darkness, and it's just like a direct contrast of the last like 10 years of my life basically. And so I just was like, what could I do to like when I walk in to feel happy and excited to be somewhere? And this is kind of what I came up with. But I do want to hit on your like black and white thing, like living in black and white. I say
Mm-hmm.
live in the gray. Like I live in the gray, or
Mm.
live in the pink. You could live in the pink, but I always say this doesn't have to be so black and white. Let's operate in the gray.
Yep.
And I say that at
Mm.
least once a week to somebody, to one of my staff members. And we don't have to be so this or that. We live in a world of and, which and is in the gray. It's not
Mm-hmm.
a world of or. So yeah.
Oh, Mallory, this is so good. I'm feeling so full and warm and fuzzy. It's a fantastic way for everyone to kick off their week. You so starting a business, and it's not often that I think that in our society we glamorize the instant success, and so it's very fun to get to talk to somebody really right here at the beginning stages because Sammy and I went to your open house, what, 3 weeks ago, I think, 4 weeks ago. And
Mhm.
so tell us just in that short time that you've been officially open, as well as I know it took a while, give us some lessons for life that you've already learned in this process.
Okay, so the three things that I've learned is one is to not take myself too seriously. I think that really eliminates the approachability of your company and like the creative like flow. And I think that that could be a really big missed opportunity for your company to thrive. Um, Two is there's not going to be this instant gratification that you just talked about, Angela. Like there is a lot of grind and a lot of like really late nights that people just don't see. And I've really tried in the past, I've done a horrible job recently to really highlight that on social media that it's not just this like it's you opened a business and everything is successful. Like within the last 2.5 weeks that I've been open, I've thought, what the heck did I just do? Like when on a Wednesday night we have a total of 3 tables come through and it's not this like massive, like blown out of the water for the first like 3 weeks that I kind of thought it would be. And so that has been like really humbling, honestly, and like we are just kind of going back to my roots and like that grind time. And that's kind of where I operate best. I make my like the coolest decisions in that like grind moment. So, anyways, and then three, trust your gut. Trust it. Don't let anybody tell you like to not trust your gut, to not go with your gut, because I've made some decisions that I've gone back on because I'm like, oh, my gut was telling me to do something different, but somebody was telling me that I needed to do it this way. But I knew deep down that I shouldn't have made that decision. And so my gut has never done me wrong. And so now I'm really learning to trust my gut and to make tangible decisions based off of that. And it has done me super well. So, yeah, those are my three.
Hmm. I would say the follow up to that is that you have to get to know yourself so that you can learn to listen to yourself. Because
Oh,
if you
totally.
haven't cultivated that just trust in yourself and the willingness to even listen to your own voice, and because you mentioned earlier that you'd found your voice, so I think that's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. Yes, finding your voice is like it's kind of the most hard journey to go on, but once you find it, it's like you feel really unstoppable. Oh, also, I want to say like especially women-owned businesses and being a woman entrepreneur, um, to stick to your guns and to just let things just roll off of your shoulders and just use that to prove people wrong. Because I had somebody come up to me like a few months before I opened. I was in the back alley, like cleaning the back alley, and he came up and he wanted to talk to me. He's actually a neighboring business owner, And he told me that he didn't think I was going to do well. And I was like, okay. And I just, let him keep talking. And he was talking all these big words and I need to have better standards in my business, and then getting a back alley entrance bar. And I said, okay. And then he said it to me two more times that I wasn't going to do well. And I said to him, I said, I am continuously like looked at in this way. I think whenever people first see this, but something that I really love to do, and I'm looking forward to doing this with you, is proving you wrong. And I don't know if you have this doubt because I'm a woman or because I'm young. It could be both, it could be neither. But like I said, I'm really looking forward to proving you wrong. And I think just kind of meeting their energy and their level on these old white men that come through and think that they just like know what's best, and because it's always been done that way. You don't have to do it that way. We have these fresh, fun ideas, and people really resonate with that. So I'm going to get off my soapbox, but women, you can do
Well,
it.
and I'm so curious to him. I'm super happy you stood up for yourself. But number two, I
Thank
would
you.
be like, what do you hope to gain? I've already signed a lease. Like, why are you sharing your curses? Do you just like have nothing better to do than to like want to like gonna stand here and laugh at me and say I told you so? Like, I've already signed a lease, dude. Like,
I know. I know. I don't
it's
know. I don't know if
I'm
he was just having a bad day, but I actually don't think that
three
that's
times.
true. I know, right? Right. 3 times that day.
Anyway.
And I've heard that, he's in general not a very nice person, but it's just like I just use that as fuel to my fire. Like, okay, I'll just
That's
prove you wrong. I'm looking forward to it. So have a good one. And then he clammed up. He's like, oh, well, I didn't mean that. Like, bye. And I was like, oh, bye bye. Have a good one.
I
That's
will
when you
say
give it a
also,
good bye, Felicia.
Literally. Literally.
also the some of the best businesses on the square are like this little side alley. You got to know the door. You like,
Yes.
why is that? Because it's in a back alley. Like, not you got to have better standards for yourself. Are you kidding me? Like, Hugo's does not look like one of the most successful burger restaurants in all of Fayetteville from the entrance. Like, you look at the entrance and you might be like,
Right.
oh, are you sure? Some of the best places are like the hidden gems. We go to other cities and I'm like, I want to find the back alley restaurant that somebody's
Heck
put
yeah.
their blood, sweat, and tears into,
Cheers
because
in.
that is the place to be. So,
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
I love it so much.
Mallory, you shared a whole bunch of different things and life lessons, but one last question, just is there anything you want to leave to encourage people with, or any message that you hope people get from you?
Um, I don't want to repeat myself, so I'm trying to think of something different. Give me a second.
Mhm.
I'm sitting here going, you are such a Winston Churchill quote. Never, never, never give up.
Literally. Never, never, never. Never, never. Um, mm, okay, I have something. Treat every failure as a learning experience, because most of the time, like, the outcome of that failure, like on your business, really isn't that extreme. I just have always treated those as like, oh, my audience didn't love this, and so I will grab that nugget of information, and it's like worth so much more than any of my successes. So just give yourself grace in those failures and treat it as a learning moment.
I love that.
Love it.
Where can people find you? Where can they connect with you?
They can connect with me in a few different places. So on Instagram and Facebook, Ozark Charcuterie. That's my handle. And then we just opened our Ozark Charcuterie and Wine Bar Instagram. And that's where we just do like fun, silly trends and just have a good time with it. It's really very much unserious. So um, Yeah, and on my personal or my Ozark Charcuterie Instagram, it's kind of my Instagram, so you'll get to see like day in the life videos and just like what it's like being a business owner, um, and less like food content creation now. So, and then people can also find me at www.ozarkcharcuterie.com.
I love that. Thank you so much, Mallory, for sharing your story with us and your journey and
Of
letting us get
course.
to kind of see behind the curtain a little bit and see some of the inspiration. This has just been really lovely.
Oh, thank y'all so
Thank you guys
much.
for Thank you guys for listening. And as always, we love whenever you share our episodes, tell your friends, share about it on social media, tag Ozark Charcuterie and say, I listened to this great episode. Do all of the things. We thank you guys so much for being wonderful listeners. And until next time, we hope you guys go be freaking awesome.